All right, welcome back. You're watching Citizen Weekend. Joining me in studio is the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection, Simon Chelugui, to give us a status update on the job market now, over a year into the pandemic. Waziri, thank you so much for coming in. We've heard numbers thrown out there. I know at least the latest coming from KNBS that 1.7 million jobs were lost last year. But from what you know and the statistics that you have, what's the state of jobs right now?
Thank you so much, Victoria, and I'm happy to be here. And first and foremost is to wish Kenyans happy Labor Day. As we speak now, a number of jobs are threatened. A number of jobs are at risk. However, first and foremost, I wish to thank the government under the leadership of our president for the actions taken since last year. And if you compare ourselves to the region, we've done, and even internationally, Kenya has done better than most of those other countries. We could have suffered more, but because of those actions, the measures we took, the advice from Ministry of Health, we've been able to manage. And even our hospitals and medical facilities have not really been overstretched as we've seen elsewhere. So those actions government has taken are, from my perspective, commendable. And the intention is to protect jobs. Now, last year, from the last 2020 economic survey, we had about 18.5 million Kenyans on job. 3 million formal jobs and about 15 million informal jobs. ILO, International Labour Organization, has been carrying out some projections, and the estimate they have given us is 9.5 hours per day per person could have likely been lost. And based on that projections, we as the Ministry of Labour, working with Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, have calculated this number to 1.7 million Kenyans who are working before approximately 10% of the entire workforce in this country. So out of that, from our ministry, the labor laws require employers to notify Commissioner of Labor of any action, redundancy or stoppage of work. They are expected to notify. So we've received over 330,000 cases of redundancies following this COVID. However, that is formal employers.
And that was during the 2020 year?
That is during 2020 year. Then the other balance, we are not able, because these are informal jobs, so they are not filing returns and they are not getting requests or permissions, because some of them are self-employed, some are working for families, and therefore we are not able to track.
So which sectors would you say were hardest hit?
The number of sectors were hardest hit. I can say the entire economic spectrum, but majorly the retail and wholesale, yep, and hotel and restaurants. We have the arts, the entertainment industry, the aviation industry, the floriculture and agriculture. You know, floriculture mostly are export-driven commodities, but because of we closed our airports, we closed our airspace, and that led to a stoppage of exports. And those businesses in floriculture were all affected, and that meant loss of jobs.
You're talking about 1.7 million people out of jobs last year. The next question that comes in is social protections. What is the government trying to do to support those who were rendered out of a job last year?
Yes, thank you, Victoria. Last year, the president did announce a raft of actions to respond to this pandemic. One of them is the 10 billion shillings, which was announced and implemented through our ministry. These monies were given to Kenyans who are new vulnerables, Kenyans who are exposed beyond the current and the normal budgeted Inua Jamii. And these monies were spent on elderly people, people living with disability, and even people who are working but now have been declared redundant. Yeah. So they didn't have jobs. People who are working in airlines, drivers who are in matatus, they could not feed their families, and therefore these monies came in handy. We also had the improvement of our communities, the urban roads, and even markets, and these Kasim Tahani, where over 330,000 young people benefited from this support. We also went beyond as ministry to seek support, and European Union through Gov't supported us, and we were also able to receive over 600 million. And working with Safaricom, we were able to target, working with Ministry of Interior, we were able to target the beneficiaries, especially in the 5 lockdown counties of Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, and Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa, Nairobi, and later Mandera. Yeah. But we later scaled up that support across the 290 constituencies in the country.
And I want to keep on that note of support, because last month, I believe your ministry developed a cabinet memorandum, and you said you want to establish a contributory unemployment insurance fund to cushion workers. How far are you with something like that?
Now, the cabinet did express itself on the need for this unemployment insurance. We benchmarked with the other jurisdictions who have similar. We've never gone through this before, but we felt now the need. We have seen in countries like Tanzania and even America, people who are working in America were able to continue earning for some period and sustain their livelihood, sustain their families. And we felt as government that this is something good. We may be this pandemic, we may overcome it in 2 years or in 1 year or in less than 1 year, but we have learned lessons. So in this unemployment insurance fund, we anticipate to create a contributory fund where the employer and employee will be making some contributions, and in the event of such a pandemic, the employee can be salary can be maintained for another 7 months or 1 year. And we are coming up with now the regulations and the terms and conditions. And we're getting a lot of support from ILO. We already have a conference with stakeholders, people who are giving us expert support. And we believe this is the way to go, because right now, people who are working in very high paying jobs, we have people in the media, we have people in engineering, we have people, pilots, who have been rendered jobless. They were earning well, they left in places, they were paying rent of 150,000, suddenly there is no income. So they are likely to be chased out of their houses. If they were servicing mortgages, they are not able to support their mortgages, and therefore it becomes a crisis.
So who will be manning this fund? Because, transparency comes into question.
True. Governance and management is very key now in running organizations, and those are part of the discussions. We are thinking of working with NSSF. We are discussing with either NSSF or domiciling as a unit in itself, but these are discussions that are still going on. Once we are done, we will invite the stakeholders and we will be able to find a home for this fund, which will assure the contributors of the safety and proper care of their funds.
What about the existing jobs? Because it's one thing to talk about the Kenyans who lost jobs and ensuring that they're okay while they're still looking for employment, but preserving the jobs that still do exist in the market. What's the government doing to ensure that?
Yes, a number of things. Number one, as a ministry, last year following the outbreak of this pandemic, we did invite our social partners, the employers and employees, and we signed a memorandum of understanding. The intention of that memorandum of understanding was dialogue between the employer and employee, so that we minimize job losses, we protect jobs, and also protect employers, because there is no job without industry. And the way to protect employers is to negotiate and engage workers, not to picket, not to challenge employers, even when there are no revenue, they have no income, they have no profitability. So you cannot be asking for salary and the employer is almost closing down because of lack of business. So this dialogue actually brought everybody on the table, and I want to thank the social partners because they understood. So that is one way we are working on in protecting and caring for jobs. But also, I want to urge employers to embrace productivity. in running their businesses. We've seen companies who have grown, like the telecommunications. They are doing a big business. We have had companies who have now they have been innovative. They are like the media, many media companies. I saw one media house the other day declared profit, and last year they made losses because they embraced digital business way of doing business. So we are now learning new ways of running and aligning our business to the situation we are in. We have seen courier companies now, instead of using the physical, right, they are now using digital. So innovation is one way of creating and retaining, sustaining jobs.
Certainly, and the pandemic has brought us closer to the future of work. Waziri, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for coming.